The solution to my life lies within these spiritual disciplines that we're talking about, the direct linkage of these three aspects, and then becoming altruistic. And part of that journey is doing the altruistic actions, manifesting more altruism, and eventually, as we relinquish more self, we become altruistic, and we are acting in love and kindness and joy without reservation. And then we're walking hand in hand with our Creator, and then understanding that we're not just going to be fucking saints. We're still going to have these desires that oppose the grace of God. We're always going to have these little hurdles and these roadblocks that, it's going to be our wants and our what we want, but we're going to have to work through those things. What is this but a miracle of healing? Circumstances made him willing to believe. It's the circumstances, if you're willing to believe that God can help you, that you will have the miracle of healing. And then he humbly offered himself to his maker. Then he knew. What did he know? He knew that everything's going to be okay. And all that other shit that we thought matters, the world of the material, it's these spiritual values and character building have to come first. That the material satisfactions are not the purpose and end aim of life, which I made them, but I still wasn't happy. Through self-forgetting and doing a lot of this work, it's gold. Basically what it's saying is it's talking about picture the deep and meaningful sense of what your life can be. Use your imagination in the prayer and meditation. Try not to let self bleed in, because self will bleed in, the doubt will bleed in, but try to redouble your efforts and really think of what you want your life to be. And picture these things. Picture the interaction with people in a kind and loving way. Picture maybe conflict and how you handle it. Picture everything. First fruits of the step is emotional balance. I think that is the first fruits, but it's on a small scale of emotional balance. The mind starts quieting. You start feeling different, and you don't even really know why you're feeling different. Like, this is kind of the benefit of being able to stay sober longer. You can connect the dots together to go, today, my emotional balance rests on the hinges of my meditation. And if I'm not doing the meditation, there's a guarantee that self bleeds back in, and then I'm starting to get emotionally disturbed, and the thoughts and the channel's not clear anymore. So emotional balance is basically the biggest fruit. And then there's another big fruit. It allows me to be of maximum service. There's a calmness that meditation produces that allows you to be more intuitive and present and be able to be helpful in these moments without actually calling on it. It just kind of downloads into your life.
So the emotional balance, I'd say, is probably one of the greatest gifts that I've gotten out of my practice of meditation. And it's something that doesn't really get noticed right away. Where it gets noticed is when you stop doing it. Then you start feeling the restless, irritable, discontented, and the balance that you had acquired over the disciplines of your meditation. You start realizing, holy shit, I'm feeling spiritual malady again. And then you start connecting the dots and realizing that it was your meditation that was really trying to help ground you. And if it be thy will, because God knows much better than me what's best for me, then I can accept whatever the situation is. Why? Because God is everything. He is, I get this, whatever it is that I'm praying for, or I don't get it. So that's really important.
If I pray for people, then I always qualify it, if it be thy will, because I actually don't know what's best for other people. And, like my brother, he's in active addiction, and I don't know what his journey is. I can pray for him, if it be thy will, that he gets well and he finds the light and fucking tries something different. Maybe his journey of life just isn't that. Maybe his journey of life is he's got to go this way, and then maybe he comes back in another lifetime, in another body, and he continues to learn his lessons. And that's one of my beliefs, is we're continually coming back here to learn the lessons.
And what I talk about is I'm like, all people are emotionally ill, spiritually sick, and frequently wrong, just like me. And when I give this to my sponsees, it's kind of something that I want them to really remember when they're struggling in a resentment or they're hitting a tough spot in their day, where typically most of the tough spots that we run into are based on a relationship with somebody at some point. And so I really love to give them, all people are emotionally ill, spiritually sick, and frequently wrong, just like me. And when this is repeated over and over and over, it actually starts breaking down the resentment. It breaks down the judgment, breaks down a lot of the defective character, and allows some compassion to be built for whoever is causing you the disturbance. And it quiets the disturbance within your own mind. We also fall into another similar temptation. We form ideas of what we think God's will is for other people. We say to ourselves, this one ought to be cured of his fatal malady, or that one ought to be relieved of his emotional pain. And we pray for these specific things. Such prayers, of course, are fundamentally good acts, but they often are based upon a supposition that we know what God's will is for the person we pray for. This means that side by side with earnest prayer, there can be a certain amount of presumption and conceit in us. So when I was in the program in the first few years, I had really tried to, think I knew what was best for my ex-wife and for my kids and for the people that were really close to me. And I would express what my thoughts were on what my kids and my ex-wife should be doing. And I had the best of intentions and I thought I was doing everything really well. But what I noticed was they were getting more sick. No matter what I tried to do to try to help them and try to guide them, and I would kind of do it from a step back, but I was still kind of prying and managing it to some degree. But then a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, at least with the ex-wife, the kids, it was earlier, I just said, you know what? I think it was this part in the book, actually, and the book that I read called Seed of the Soul. It said, you don't really know what's best for anybody. Everyone's on their own journey, so let them be on their journey, and you just fucking be there for them if they need you. And once I took my hands off and I actually let it go, then they asked me for help, and they all went on the same path, but I keep my hands off of it. I don't tell them what to do. I don't know what's best for my daughters. I don't know what's best for my brother. My brother's in active addiction. He's doing hard drugs and drinking. And I've just left it up to God. I don't know what's best for him. I do pray for him, but I always qualify with it, if it be thy will. Because I don't know if my brother is meant to fucking get sober in this lifetime. And my own selfish self-centeredness, yeah, I would like to see that. I would like to have a relationship with my brother. But this is God's world, not my world. And I've had to really stand back and just be an observer in this relationship. And just let it go how it's going to go. And if he doesn't get sober, you know what? That's God's will. If he gets sober, then that's God's will too. I don't know what's best for anybody. So I don't really pray for anybody for anything specific. And if I do, I always qualify it with, if it be thy will. And what has that done for me? It allows me to break the attachment or the string that I'll hold on to in any relationship of what I used to get value from. Because it's when I hold on to a relationship of any kind, there's always something that used to give me value in it. And it's usually based in emotional security of some sort. And I'll hold on to that. And I want that still. But what this prayer, what we're reading here has done, it's allowed me to cut that little string and just be okay. I don't know what's best for anybody. And the relationship moves on its own merit, not with me fucking involved. And it works out much better that way. All those who have persisted and have found strength not ordinarily on their own, they have found wisdom beyond their usual capability. And they have increasingly found peace of mind, which can stand firm in the face of difficult circumstances. They're all matters of knowledge and experience. So what prayer has done for me, it's really given me something to lean into. In this We Agnostics chapter, it talks about, had we not been leaning too heavily on reason for that last mile, and we didn't like to lose its support, and we couldn't step from bridge to shore. So what prayer has actually given me, it's given me the ability to let go of my own security and my own security and my own reason and my own will of staying secure. And it's given me the capability to jump off a cliff without a parachute and fucking let the parachute open if God has it open for me. And it's allowed me to gain some traction in my recovery over time, where God was just a small, tiny little belief. And that belief grew into some faith. And when I looked at the track record, which was about 18 months to 2 years, and the book was also part of that faith and track record. And at the 18 months or 2 years, I was like, this fucking book has changed my life. And I'm going to let this book wholeheartedly run my life. And through the directions and me getting to that jumping off point where I'm like, fuck it. This book has done so much for me. I'm going to see what else it can do for me. And essentially it's God. And I've been able to fucking just jump off. And then I found what this says here. I find the strength, not ordinarily of my own. I don't have the power. If I had the power, I wouldn't be fucking here. I need God's power. And I can stand strong in my faith with my creator and have this belief here today that God is everything, good or bad. And it doesn't matter what it is, because it just is. And then it allows me to cut these attachments and just be okay with fucking the world the way it is.